So,
Where your wine?
in quarantine, you need to be drinking wine, guys. Make sure you have lots of wine, water, and toilet paper. And push come to shove, you can always boil water. That's why I'm not tripping.
Hey,
Hey,
guys. Welcome back to our channel, Plots with a Twist,
where we discuss books.
amongst other things. And today, our schedule got pushed off because of this coronavirus.
Girl, it's irritating.
So yeah, so that's okay. We had a different video plan, but we got something else for you guys. So today we're gonna get into some books you should read while we're quarantined.
Yes.
So let's
Why
get
you gotta stay at
into it.
Say hi to Charlie, guys. Because he want to be in the video so bad. Ooh, Charlie.
All right, let's get into it. Okay. I can start or you start?
You start.
Okay, so my mind went several places when I was thinking about books to like read during quarantine. So I was thinking like dystopic, but then I was thinking like illness, and then I was thinking like feel good, and then I was thinking like some of everything. So I just got a little hodgepodge of everything.
Of all the books.
So this is the only one I have physically, but it's okay. So the first one I want to mention is Ready Player One. I kind of thought of like when you're inside, stuck inside, you're playing video games and stuff like that and all that.
Sure.
So if you haven't read this or seen the movie, I don't know what you're doing, but I haven't seen the movie, but
I haven't seen the movie or read it.
Oh, I don't know what you're doing then. Okay, Ready Player One is set in the year 2044. It's about a young boy who spends most of his time in the Oasis, and the Oasis is like a virtual world where basically you can do whatever you want to, but of course if you have more money, you can really unlock some of these levels. So he's poor, so he has access to just the bare minimum, but he's really skilled. So through his skills, he gets access to other stuff, but that's besides the point. So one day the creator of the Oasis comes out and basically says, anybody who can solve my puzzle gets claim on my fortune. And I believe he's dying or something, so this is like his death wish or whatever, or he's dead or whatever. So so there ensues this whole big competition for everybody to basically unlock these riddles and take claim of the fortune, as well as take ownership of the Oasis. I really actually enjoyed this book. I read it before I saw it was becoming a movie, and it was interesting. It has a lot of 80s references, a lot of video game references, a lot of like 80s movies references as well. And so that being kind of my era, I was like liking it because I was like, oh, yeah, it's just really well done, and it's not overly complicated as far as the overload of information, because it is very much just virtual game reference, this reference. The author does a good job of explaining everything. So I really did enjoy this book. It ended in a way that was like satisfying. So Ready Player One came to mind while I was quarantined or being quarantined.
Okay, so my first pick for if I was quarantined, which I kind of am, but not really, would be In a Dark Wood by Ruth Ware, and she's like known for suspense thriller. All of her books are like mystery thriller books. This book in particular we read sometime last year, and it's basically about, I forget the main character's name, but a girl who's invited to a bachelorette like kind of getaway weekend in a cabin with a girl that she hasn't spoken to for a very, very long time, and she's kind of wondering like why she was invited in the first place, but she still goes, which I don't understand. I would have said no. But and it kind of just centers around that weekend and all the weird events that happened that weekend. I'm trying to remember exactly what it's about because I read it a long time ago. But
something happens where somebody supposedly, a lot of them are in the hospital.
Yeah.
And so you don't know exactly what happened unless you keep reading.
Right, and it kind of like goes through the story, like goes back and forth from what happened, how they ended up in the predicament, and it just, I remember it being, I only gave it 3 stars, but I feel like this would be a good book to read during a quarantine because it's kind of got like that thriller. If you like being scared a little bit, it's not scary, like you're not going to feel freaked out or have nightmares, but it gives you that feel of suspense, like being in the house alone and just kind of trying to figure out what's going on, like kind of like mystery, like who done it. So yeah, I picked this book, Ruth Ware. She's good at like creating suspense and thrillers in a book. So if you want to kind of be scared while you in the house alone, quarantine like I am, read Ruth Ware in the Dark, Dark Wood.
All right. So I left the rest of my books in my home. So the next one I wanted to mention is a series that kind of came to mind. So why this came to mind is basically like survival of the fittest. So that is the Maze Runner series. So I read that a few years ago. So basically it's about a boy. One day he wakes up and the only thing he remembers is his name, and he enters this kind of woodsy area where basically it's a whole bunch of other boys and they have tasks, and he innately knows some things, but something about it just seems very kind of familiar to him. But either way, he is wanting to be a maze runner. So during the day they go out to try to figure their way out of the maze, and apparently if they figure their way out of the maze, they can figure their way out of this area they're secluded to. So the series follows them as they are in the maze. At some point, I mean, I hope I'm not spoiling it, but at some point gets out, but not really out, and figure out why they're even there, and what all of this means for society. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that because it kind of has the element of like this mass sickness that a lot of people had that caused for the situation to bring these young people in the maze. So yeah, it's just it wasn't the strongest series I've read, I will say that, but it was still entertaining in that it kept you engaged. It kept you wanting to know what happened. It kept you wanting to know how all this happened and where it was going. And yeah, I really did not, I think I just did not enjoy how the third book ended. It just kind of was like, here, this is what we're working up to. And it's like, this is what you was working up to? Like, okay. But they also have a movie for that. So if you want to check out the movies instead, I wouldn't blame you. But yeah, it was just it was a good quick read because I read those very quickly. Like the weeks or the days, hopefully, that we're quote unquote supposed to be quarantined. Well, we're not really technically quarantined. Yeah. But you know, like y'all know what we mean. Yeah. But yeah, so it was just a solid series to just get through the days.
So my next series, I got my books. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series, and I actually have I have 5 of the books. The 6th one that just came out, I don't have it. I got it from the library, and I'm currently reading that. But yeah, these are the first 3 by the original author Stieg Larsson, who is now deceased. He passed away before he was able to finish it, but it's being continued by David somebody.
Lagerkrantz.
So yeah, I would suggest reading these because if you're in the house and you just don't have anything else to do, I know they look intimidating because
they're short, fat books.
They're like thick, but when I tell you, especially these first 3, they were so good and so intriguing, especially the first one. But yeah, I would suggest reading these because first of all, look how thick they are. They're gonna basically have you fill your time up, and you're gonna be really interested. And I wouldn't say they're mystery books, but they have a thriller suspense type of vibe to them as well. So yeah, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series. It starts with the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, then the Girl Who Played with Fire, and the Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest. If you read any of them,
all of them.
Yeah, if you read any of them, read these first 3. The last couple 2, you don't have to, but for the sake of continuing the series, I'm gonna read all of them as they come out. But I will say the first 3 by the the author who created the series are the best ones. Let's just gonna put it out there. So yeah, that's my second pick for quarantine books.
Okay, so for the third one, my mind also went to Eleanor Oliphant Is Completely Fine.
Love that book.
So read that a few years ago now, And oh my God, that was like a surprising book because honestly, it was during a time where we didn't know what books to pick. So we just picked it based off of the fact that somebody said it was good.
I think it was on like Reese Witherspoon's.
Yeah, that's
book
the
club.
somebody. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
So yeah, we read that, and initially I didn't know what to gather from it, but I end up enjoying it. So Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine. It's about Eleanor Oliphant. She's a woman. She has like she's a woman. She works in an office, and basically she just has a very set routine. She talks to her mom once a week, and you're like, okay, what's that about on the phone? And she one day walking home, and she sees an older gentleman kind of pass out from like what seems to be like a heart attack. So her and the coworkers see this at the same time, and they kind of help him get to the hospital. And through that, she, for the first time in her life, creates interactions and has what you can call friends. So she befriends the old man as well as the coworker, and it just goes into her backstory as to, because she's kind of displays odd behavior. It goes back into her backstory of kind of how she became the way she is, why she's that way. Yeah, some trauma she went through. So it's kind of like when you first reading it, it gives you like that kind of quirky vibe, but you realize like the author's kind of dropping breadcrumbs that is a grander issue here. And once you get to those issues, you're like, wow, you know, especially once she kind of realizes her issues and gets to a point where she breaks through to feel like, hey, I'm more than what my circumstances are. So it's a really good story. Definitely would recommend it. And yeah, it's a good read.
So my next book is from one of my favorite authors, Sandra Cisneros. It's called A House of My Own.
Oh, yeah.
What's it called? Stories from My Life. So this is, it's almost like, I want to say it's a memoir, even though it's not labeled as that, but it is like a nonfiction tale of like how she, basically about her life, like how she became an author, what school she went to and all that stuff, and how she wrote different things. I got introduced to Sandra Cisneros very early, like in the 7th grade, and she's kind of like close to my heart because The House on Mango Street was a book that she wrote, and we had to read that in 7th grade. That was the book that I say that made me want to read more. Yeah, so this book basically just goes through like from her growing up in Chicago and going to school, and just basically going through her life as a writer and as an artist, and kind of like breaking, I don't want to say stereotypes, but kind of, because she's a Mexican American writer from Chicago. So she just talks about her coming of age, kind of, because she's like an older lady now, but you can see she was a young, vibrant thing on this cover. So one chapter that stuck out really to me was she traveled to Greece and like went and wrote one of her books, and I was like, that's what I need to do.
Let's go.
I need to go to Greece.
I want to go to Cozumel back. I want to go back to Cozumel.
Cozumel?
Yes, that's where I got this shirt.
Oh, I thought she was perpetrating. But anyway. So yeah, so this book, I would say read this during a quarantine because it makes you think about at least for me, it makes you think about your life and like what you want out of life, and just like how she chose to like just live her life, how she wanted to live it. I feel like anybody who reads this will get something out of it, and I really enjoyed it when I did read it. So yeah. What's it called? A House of My Own.
So we did want to mention some books that came to mind, but we just haven't read them yet. So the first book that came to mind when I think of a quarantine and a pandemic, and this might sound bad, but The Strain by Guillermo del Toro. So I have that book. I haven't read it, but it's based off the show. So if you've seen the show, it used to come on, FX. I believe it came on FX.
Sounds like an FX show.
Yeah, I believe it came on FX, but I could be wrong. But basically, it's about an outbreak of something that kind of turns people into vampires. So I just love Guillermo del Toro's work. So I've just been a fan of his for so many years. So the fact that he had a book, I believe he turned one of his other movies into a book, but I can't think of it. But other than that, that's just what came to mind when I was like, oh, The Strain. The Strain of Corona.
Oh
But I just haven't personally read it. But who knows, during this quarantine, I haven't been having a good reading month, but I might just throw everything out and be like, come on, Guillermo.
and just get to it.
Right.
Okay, so my book that I have had for a while but haven't read, and I feel like you should read stuff like this when you're going through a time of like, you know, you just feel like the world, like, what is this world we're living in? What is going on right now? Is The Seat of the Soul. And I feel like probably like a lot of you guys have either heard of this book or read it.
I haven't.
Really? It's really popular.
I've heard of, you know what I thought that was when I saw it?
What?
The Gift of the Sea.
I don't even know what that is.
See?
But yeah, so this book basically it centers around like humanity, like I guess like evolving and going through like another level of consciousness, and like just it says a remarkable treatment of thought, evolution, and reincarnation. So that tells you all you need to know. So from what I like know about this book so far, it basically like when you want to go to the next like spiritual level, or just like get more in tune with yourself, spiritual, ascend, like whatever that means for you, this book should help you do that.
All right, so the other book, I have a 0.5. So the other book I wanted to mention that I haven't read, but it came to mind when we were thinking about like just this quarantine, is The Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey. So I bought that from a library sale some years ago. But I've been wanting to read that for a while. I've heard great things about it. It's just about a young girl that she like I think it's told from her perspective, but kind of like her world is basically she lives in a cell. They have to kind of keep guns on her at all times as she go to classes, and she doesn't understand why, but I know it's like a zombie-esque type thing, and might be lying, but I think she's like supposed to be like a carrier or something, or maybe she's immune. I have no idea. Haven't read it. Right. But it's been on like book list on Pinterest. I just haven't read it, but I was like, I might read it now because we quarantine. So yeah.
Not we quarantine. The next book that I said that you should read during a time like this is a thick old book, because what you got? Nothing but time. Just Above My Head by James Baldwin. And I bought this from a library book sale as well, and I was like, "Ooh, James Baldwin." I didn't like know what it was about, anything. I just knew it was a James Baldwin book, and I said I'm gonna get it. So yeah, this is actually about a gospel singer in Harlem, I believe, who's mourning his brother.
He loved Harlem.
That's where he's from.
I know.
Me too. Harlem Hospital. I think we was born in the same hospital.
I guess you write your surroundings.
Just from my head, this is something I would read during the quarantine, because one, you got, you know, a bunch of story, and you know it's James Baldwin, so you know he's gonna give you a good writing style and good story. This particular book, I have been planning to read this for a long time, but you can see like how big it is. I just don't have the time. Now I might have the time since we're quarantined, but I've always said like I don't have the time. So it centers around, if you read Go Tell It on the Mountain, that's also a story about like growing up in a church in Harlem, and I think this story is similar in that it's focuses on church in Harlem, but the story is a little different. So yes, that's something I would read during this quarantine time.
Here's my 0.5. I'm not going to talk about it, but get ready, y'all.
The Zombie Survival.
The Zombie Survival Guide. Yeah. I'm ready.
My brother was like, this is definitely like The Walking Dead.
Anyway, guys, it's like a spur-of-the-moment video that we thought of because
we're in a crisis. The world is in a crisis, really. Not even just America.
I mean, is it really a crisis, though?
No. I think that it should be taken seriously, but don't panic. Everything's going to be all right, guys. Like, you know.
I think you should just wash your hands.
Wash your hands and treat people, you know, still with dignity and respect. Like, you don't have to be snatching toilet paper from old ladies.
Or you don't have to land a whole plane because somebody sneezed. Like, that was ridiculous.
They did that?
Yes.
Wow.
Because it wasn't even that somebody sneezed. It's that the rest of the people, the rest of the cabin was like disruptive over that person sneezing.
Oh my God. See,
like,
people just get out of control, and it don't even be the actual thing that's happening. It's people and not, you know, having control over their whatever they need to control. Like, just relax. Breathe and relax, and we're all going to be fine. And wash your hands and stay safe.
For 20 seconds at least.
20 seconds. I do 25.
Go down. Scrub the back. Get your nail bed.
Yes. All of that. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let us know what you're doing at this time of crisis or whatever. what you're reading right now, you know, to help you stay in a good mood at this difficult time. So yeah, and we'll see you next time. Say bye, Charlie.
All right. Bye.